welcome to everybody to today's session of the Coalesce Transformation Talk. Today on the 16th of January, and today we want to talk, or I want to talk and present you the topic of implementing data tests and how you can enhance your data quality by using these data tests. And I'm presenting all of that in the tool Coalesce, but I'm also going to talk over some more general topics in terms of data tests and data quality. So first of all, about me, my name is Dennis Pollard. I am working as a BI consultant for Scalefree International. And I have around 3 years of experience in handling SQL and databases, and already more than 2 years of experience in the Data World 2.0 framework, and working with various data warehousing automation tools. And since I'm a consultant, I'm implementing these solutions in customer projects, and I help them to optimize their processes, their BI solutions, the infrastructure, to make it all work well together. In terms of my background, I have my education is that I have a bachelor's degree in business information systems, and this, with a focus on business intelligence and data warehousing. I'm also a certified Data World 2.0 practitioner, and as I mentioned, my core tasks are in data vault modeling, data warehousing automation, and data transformations, mainly with Coalesce and DBT. This is, I think, the third session of the format we have here now, Coalesce Transformation Talks. This is happening every third Thursday of the month. So we have one session now, we have one session next month, and so on. So feel free to enjoy today's session and also to join on the next sessions as well. You're also able to get access to the recordings of all the previous sessions, and you're also able to sign up and see the topics of any upcoming sessions. So let's get into today's topic. As I mentioned, it's about data tests. So I'm going to give a brief introduction about why you need data tests or why you should use data tests. And then I will talk about how you can make sure in Coalesce that you have a certain degree of data quality, or you can improve your data quality in your data warehousing. And in the end, I'm also going to show a demo about how to do it, what kind of possibilities you have, and how you can set it up in Coalesce. So let's get into the topics. First of all, why do you need data tests? And the first thing that comes to my mind is thinking about the bad side, basically why you want to have good quality or data quality. How is bad data quality impacting your data warehousing, your company, and your whole data-driven infrastructure and decision process? So first of all, you want to make use of your data. How do you make use of your data? By implementing these or by making use of the data in your strategic decisions. It helps with the growth of the company, especially for big companies. It's important to have a good overview over your data so you can make use of that and grow accordingly. Once you have that overview, you also want to make sure that your data quality reaches a certain standard, because otherwise you might struggle with investments or opportunities. What does it mean? For example, you have a forecast going on of a certain market growing, and you rely on your data, and you believe, okay, there's a market that is growing. I want to invest into that for my company to grow. Now, if it turns out the quality is somehow faulty and it's not actually this market growing, you made some wrong investments. So not only are you losing out on some opportunities or some market share that you could get there, you're also losing out on the money, or it's like a bad investment, basically. And goes hand in hand with the second aspect, the missed opportunities. So you're not able to pursue the growth of that business or the market there. So that's one key aspect. The second one is operational efficiency. So let's say you want to work with your data, but you realize something is going wrong. You don't have the amount or the degree of data quality you want to have. So you have people that need to fix that. That leads to delays in process. Like normal work, you would usually finish in a couple of days, takes longer because things need to get fixed first. Or even some services of your company get delayed because some processes are not running as they should. That's the second thing. And then the third thing is if you are handling customers, that can also impact the business with them. So for example, if you have your customer 2 times in databases or in your data warehouse, that could lead that you have duplicated communications with them. You send emails out 2 times, you send receipts out 2 times, or it can also lead to wrong deliveries. For example, you have the wrong address in there or something got a little mixed up. And it leads to the customer not receiving the product on time, not receiving it at all, which in the end, decreases the happiness of this customer. And it also has an impact then on the reputation, how this customer sees your company and whether they are going to order again or have business with you again or not. So quite a big impact. It's not only about the data itself, it's also how people outside of your company see you, your customers see you, and how the whole processes work. Then the second thing I want to talk about is some common data quality problems. So I already mentioned some impacts or some things that lead or what it leads to if you have bad data quality. And what are some common problems? Like I said, already duplicates. So for example, you have a customer 2 times in your data warehouse, leading to duplicate communications, emails many times, and it confuses the customers. As well as you can also have null values where you would expect data, which then can make it more difficult if you have some calculations running on values that you would expect, but they are not there. Or, for example, you would expect a phone number of a customer because you have to reach them, but then it turns out you don't have the phone number in there. Instead, you just have a null value, which hinders the communication, the support to the customer. Another thing is formats. So one example is date formats, currency formats. If you have inconsistencies in there, that can also cause confusion. Let's say you have different date formats, like for example, in Europe or in Germany, you have the date, the day, the month, and the year in this order. In the USA, it's different. They have it the other way around. And if you're not sure which is which, then this can also lead to confusion. Another aspect is data integrity, which is basically important which explains a relationship between different data points or different databases, tables. So, for example, if you have an order that already exists in one database, but the associated payment record is missing, then it's also hard to really understand, okay, which side is now the right side and how did it happen that this part is missing. Then data accuracy. This can sometimes come from human errors because something didn't get typed in correctly. There are some flaws in there. For example, if you have stock or inventory level stocks that are not correct, you might think, okay, I still have this product in stock, but then it turns out that is not the case. So you can't deliver certain things and you're missing out on business again, or the customer's getting upset and not happy. And then the last thing, different truth. Let's say you have databases that should be, or parts in your data warehouse that should lead to the SAM calculation of some KPIs. But then it turns out the marketing KPI and the sales KPI, which should equal the same, don't equal the same, which then causes your reporting to have trouble because they are not sure, okay, which part is right, which part is wrong. And they have different tools, but also lose the trust in the reporting. Some common data quality problems. Now, what is really important if you find out that you have data quality problems, or if you think, okay, something could happen, I think the most important thing is, it can happen to everyone. you should just make sure that you detect these as early as possible. Because the earlier you detect the data quality problems, the easier it is to fix them. So what you want to do is implement some things that make sure that you fix the issues as early as possible in the source integration levels, because that means it's low cost. Low cost, minimal business impact, because you don't need to touch as many aspects in your data warehouse, tables, databases, anything as much as you would have to do it if you realize it later on. So if you realize it in the business level, because the business people say, okay, there's some aspect that doesn't make sense, some calculations that doesn't make sense or don't make sense, that means, okay, now you see it in the end of the whole the whole chain of data products, and you need to correct it in all of these. So it's not just this one database anymore, a table where you need to do the correction, but you have to do it all the way downstream to the source, which equals, okay, highest costs, because there are many tables or corrections you need to do. And you also have a big impact on the business now, because they were ready to work with the parts you delivered to them, but they realized, okay, that's not possible because, yeah, something is going wrong there. So try to detect the data quality issues as early as possible, saves time, saves cost, and also saves the trust from your business people into your data products. Then, since we were talking about data testing, you not only want to test as early as possible, but I mean, yeah, this brings you one key aspect, but you also have more key aspects. So like I said, trust in data is one of the really important ones. You want to have a reliable reporting with accurate and validated data, so that the decision making or the decision makers are confident in the data that they see. So they can make good decisions on that, and you don't lose out on money, on market growth or anything. Instead, you can grow the way you plan to. Then about your processes, if you are able to implement automated quality checks, you already reduce the risk of, first the human error that can happen, and also it accelerates the whole testing process. Even better if that can run again and again and again every time you, for example, integrate a new source to your data warehouse. And this way you are able to reduce the manual effort as much as possible. And then also you have a risk reduction. What does that mean? If you are able to implement, for example, the automated quality checks, you have something like an early warning system. So these potential issues are noticed as early as possible, which then prevents bigger and larger problems from happening. Like I said, if you realize it in the end, that causes the biggest problems that they are. So earlier is always better. Then it's also about compliance. There are a lot of regulations or legal requirements that certain companies have to meet. And if they are able to prevent issues with that, it helps them to not have to pay any fines, and also makes it easier if the company gets checked for these compliance, that they can already be quite confident that this is not happening to them. Then again, the business protection, like I mentioned, business is important, and that also your customers are happy. If you are able to have good data testing, you can, you basically have a safeguard for your reputation. Like I said, if deliveries are on time and not going somewhere else or being delayed, then your customer is happy. The other way around, it might lead to the customer not choosing you again for business. And it helps with the satisfaction as well, of course. And then what kind of possibilities do you have in Coalesce to ensure your data qualities or data quality? So now we saw why it's so important. How are we able to actually implement this in our tool? First of all, what kind of tests are there? What can you test for? A couple of them are already mentioned, but now from the technical side, you can test on missing or null values. So for example, if somewhere you would expect the value to come, you can also check if that is really coming. In case that is not the case, there can be some warning. The same goes for data types. If you expect a certain data type, you can also make sure that this is the case. You can check for uniqueness. So let's say you have a business ID where one business ID should lead to one record. You can make sure that this is always the case. So for example, you don't have duplicate customer IDs, and you don't run into issues there. Yeah, value ranges. You can, for example, check an age column that should not contain any negative numbers or unrealistically high values. And one really important thing, referential integrity. So you want to make sure that the data that you save is the same over certain tables that belong to each other. So we have relationship between tables and that these are actually working out the way they are supposed to do. And then custom business rules. So if business has some certain things they want to make sure that these are implemented, you can also feel free to add all your custom rules as well. And then how do you do it in Coalesce? So you have two different options in Coalesce. First of all, you have per column, per node, this testing selector here, in which you also have a different in node and column. And for example, now in the node and the column area here, you have two out of the box tests that you can use, which is null and which is unique. So let's say we have a customer key here and we add the unique possibility for the test, and then we can check it here to make sure that our customer key is always unique and it would get tested. The same if you say customer key is something I always expect to be there, you can say, okay, null test should be active here as well, for example, for the name, address, nation key, and similar columns that are possible here. What else is there? You can also write your own tests in SQL. So not only are you limited to only using these out-of-the-box solutions, but you can basically feel free to write any kind of SQL code, and you can then basically write a select statement with the conditions you are looking out for in the test. And if the test or the select statement is delivering any results back, then this is basically telling or the test telling you that there are some errors, and then you are able to choose, okay, if there are results coming back, means there is a failure. Should the table still continue? Should the whole downstream model still be created, or should everything stop and run into an error? This is what you can choose here. And then you can also choose, okay, these tests should run after or before or during the creation of this table. And now I would say, okay, we've seen some examples of the things that are possible. We saw what bad data quality can lead to. And now I actually want to show you a quick example on how it actually looks in Coalesce. So I just quickly prepared something here. We have some source nodes here, just some simple data about some products. So we have an ID, product ID, category ID, descriptions, and some other columns, and something similar here in orders, order IDs, customer IDs, and many more columns. And what I want to show you now is we want to create a stage here that feeds into this hub. And in the hub, we're going to make sure that the hub hash key is always unique. So first of all, in the stage, I created the hub hash key for the product here. And edit this. Here we're just quickly creating this. And then in the hub here, where we also see, okay, we have the product hash key here, the product ID is the business key. And now we want to make sure that this hash key here is always unique. The same for the product ID. So we know, okay, the business key we chose here is really unique and it's a good a good business key. So first of all, let's quickly create this, and then we can run this, and you have to make sure if you configure tests that you actually enable them in here. That's important. Yeah, and then you can run the hub. And while this is happening, it's also creating the tests and running the tests. Okay, so this is done, this worked. And now, first of all, it's green here. But if you look into detail, okay, this worked out. So the hub hash key is unique. The test was successful, same for the product ID. So, okay, looks like our business key is well chosen and it's unique one. It's a unique one. Just to test that out, okay, we can also do that for the load date here at this and for the record source. Now, usually I would say, okay, load date over all the records is probably not unique. So we can just try that again to see how it looks if the test is failing. And now we can see in here that these two tests were successful. The other two tests were not successful. And it also says test failed, records matching failed condition were returned. So then you get the SQL code here that you can basically run again. I have it here, Snowflake. And you can just check, okay, what do we get back from that? We can see, okay, one of these LDTS is there multiple times. We can check again, which ones do we have? Aha, okay. We have this one, the beginning of all times, end of all times, and then we have the date from today, which occurs 126 times. So we say, okay, this one is not unique. That is the reason why our test failed. And we know, okay, it's working out well. And for this hub now, we know our business key and the hub hash key are unique, and we have data tests running that make sure of that this is the case. Then the lower part, here I have the orders, and in here I basically have stage where I want to do some transformation before I start with the data word stage. And what do I want to do here? I want to show you how the SQL tests look like. So, for example, here we have two different dates. We have an order date, we have a requested date, and I just want to make sure that the requested date is always bigger than the order date. So let's say, okay, we first have a request, then we have an order, and we want to make sure that this is the case. Could be anything that is coming from business or which makes sense looking at your data, like in depth. And how you do it here is, again, you have to check the options here in the node properties, and you have to enable the tests. And yeah, then you can basically add as many tests as you want to with this button here. And you can check if you want to continue a failure or you want to keep it running, and then if you want to run the test before or after. So right now I don't want to continue a failure. I wanted to run it to an error. And I would first create it and then run it. Takes a second, and now we can see, okay, test failed, continue failure option disabled, and this part here failed. And it's telling us, okay, this condition was not successful. We got some records in return here, and we can check again how many we get here. So for example, here we get 641 records that don't meet this condition. But if we decide, okay, maybe business said, okay, we want to do it the other way, it doesn't make sense this way, we would change it and also change it in the test, then this would be fine again. So it depends on how you want to do it, but you can basically implement all kinds of tests here, and yeah, they will be tested. And you will get an error notification, and also the rest after that. The other nodes are going to stop when there's this error noticed. Okay, then this was the quick demo I wanted to show. And let's get back to the slides. So the demo is over, and I would say that's it for today's session. Thank you everyone for joining, and feel free to submit some questions or topics that you wish to see in the future. As I said, this format is happening every third of Thursday, and we're also open for your topics and questions as always, so we can discuss them the next time. And the goal is always to keep the topic from 10 to 20 minutes, max is 30 minutes. And feel free to also join next time. And thank you everyone for joining, and hopefully see you next time. Thank you.